Hello, everyone. It is the Prophet Michael David, aka Aries, and I know everyone isn't having a great day, hence the thumbnail and title of this video, including me. Okay, here we go. As I have proclaimed myself Mashiach on many occasions, and the Mahdi during my Relevation video, Raphael's Horn, I'm therefore the prophet of end times prophet of both Judaism and Islam, and also, therefore, in both religions, their future king. And so, as their future king, I exercise my right to command you all to stop fighting, lay down your arms. I've gone over the Mashiach thing many times, so today I'm going to explain more of the Mahdi stuff to the people that do not know how Islam Islamic end times prophecy works. That being said, um, at the end of this video, I'm going to read from the Bible to tell you what will happen to you if you defy me. Before any of you, Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, or anybody else, thinks that I'm going to take sides on this, I'm not. Um, God, the angel of the Lord, and I are horribly disappointed with both sides in this conflict. Okay, number one, why are you even fighting? I mean, I'll tell you why. Because you're sociopaths and you like killing each other. You have for a very long time. You're just fighting a vendetta. You're not trying to fight for your people or your religion or God. You're just murderous sociopaths. And you will be judged so in the afterlife. Number two, why are you even fighting? Because that land is some, if not the most worthless land in the world, the least holy. Let me ask you this in another way. How much blood does it take, especially innocent blood, to defile even the holiest ground? Not nearly as much as you might think. And that land has been just drenched in oceans and oceans and oceans of blood. On the Islamic side or the Jewish side, if you ever thought that for Jewish people, Geula would come and God would set up there in Jerusalem again, you're out of your minds. Same thing with you Muslims. If you think God was going to set up there in Jerusalem or in Mecca, you're out of your minds. And I'll explain that too. That is the unholiest land in the entire world. Jerusalem, city of peace, that city has not really deserved that name probably all the way back in Genesis, since Melchizedek was king of it, and it was just the town of Salem, the town of peace. Jerusalem. Now I don't know what blood is in Hebrew, but that's what you should call it, city of blood. And also your land is totally misnamed, as I've said before. Israel never was meant to be the name of a land. Israel does not mean the land of the people that struggle with God or they who struggle with God. It means he who struggles with God. Oh, and just for the record, unless I am commanded by God and I do not foresee that happening, I'm never going to set foot in that place. And there won't be any need. I mean, in the worst case scenario is you are, number one, harming your undying souls and causing yourself just exponentially more judgment in the afterlife. But number two, like if humanity doesn't change its ways, no one's going to be able to inhabit that land anyway. You're going to, in 10 years, heat blooms are going to be so bad that it will literally be too hot to live in the Middle East and lots of parts of India too. Here in the end times, in the current world of lies that we live in, that's what you guys are. You know, from dirty cops to murder soldiers to pretty much anybody that convinces themselves that they're, you know, serving, protecting by having a profession, a job that, you know, with a gun. In the end, they're just dooming themselves to very large amounts of redemption in the afterlife. Just like you can't fix a hole with a shovel, you can't have peace when you're carrying around a bunch of guns with Shiva Lingam in them. Look it up. Or bombs shaped like Shiva Lingam. It just doesn't work. If you guys really want to save your planet, stop making bullets and guns and bombs. Just one more rant before I get into Islamic prophecy and Mahdi here. But once you're nothing special. You're just murderous sociopaths. You're just bargain bin basic bitch sociopaths. You are the most common shit in the universe. Nothing special at all. Okay, Islamic prophecy. Okay, so I just said that there's no way that the third temple or the Axis Mundi can be in Jerusalem. God never intended to go back after 70 AD. But I also said that the Axis Mundi couldn't be like in Mecca either, and this is the reason. I talked about this a little bit before in my Raphael's horn video, but and most people don't know this. I didn't until I found it. Um, that the or the Kaaba, where in Mecca, where all the Muslims go for their pilgrimage, Hajj, in 1979, November, I think, it was hijacked by a group of men. And they had guns and they held everybody hostage and closed all the doors. And the ringleader stood up and he had this other guy next to him. And he said, the Prophet Muhammad said that the Al Mahdi or the Imam Mahdi would have his name and his second given name or his last name would be his father's name. So therefore, the Al Mahdi's name would be Muhammad al Abdullah because Muhammad's father was named Abdullah. So again, that group of men kept everybody hostage and tried to forcibly get them to all to bend their knee to their new prophet, their new Mahdi. And eventually the Saudi Arabian army came in a couple days later and then splattered their brains all over the Kaaba or the Kaaba. I always get confused in the correct pronunciation. And yeah, and that's the reason why that could never be the Axis Mundi, because it's been, I mean, even though there are hijackers, it's just too much blood and death for the center of the world, the place where God chooses to personally reside. All right, so that is the quote from the Prophet Muhammad that the ringleader was basically quoting. I've seen it quoted many different ways, some much better than others, but none of them perfect, and nobody really has any interpretations on the name except that his name will be exactly mine and his second given name will be exactly my father's, which is some interpretation, but a bad one. But now I will tell you the true interpretation of what Muhammad means and why my name of Michael David is perfect for it. All right, let's do the second part first, because to me, this is the least convincing part in some ways. All right, his father's name shall be my father's name, or the same as my father's name. It really means like the same of our father's name or the father's name, and that's why it pertains to King David. And this is why. Again, a lot of people don't know, at least Jewish people and a lot of Christians, that um, Islam has all, it's an Abrahamic religion. They have all the same prophets as Christianity and Judaism, all the way back to, their prophets go all the way back to Adam and Eve. The difference is they consider everybody Muslim. So Adam and Eve Muslim, Abraham Muslim, Jesus Muslim, Mary Muslim, which is hard for me to agree with. You can't be calling people things that they didn't even call themselves in real life. Although a lot of Christians considered Jesus Christian when he was Jewish. So in that way, King David is not only the most famous prophet king in Judaism and Christianity to a point, he's the most famous prophet king in Islam too. Muhammad never proclaimed himself king. And David's always been known in Abrahamic religions as the version one of what the Mashiach the Messiah was supposed to be. And that pertains to all three religions. Like I said, I know seems like it's stretching a little bit, but he's integral to every end time story across all the religions and everything. But like, there's no prophets, at least super famous ones that I know of, that are named Abdullah. And Muhammad is the prophet Muhammad. You would not have another prophet with the same name. That's why there's really no prophets named Michael, because I'm the one that's the prophet named Michael. Okay, now comes the good part. How can the name Michael, my name, mean the same thing as Muhammad? I mean, so again, the truest translation of my name, Michael, pronounced Mikael in Islam, is who is as supreme as God, ? The translation for the name Muhammad, to most people, and you can look this up, Google it if you want to, but Muhammad means, these days, it means laudable or like applaudable, standing applause, because, he was a prophet, a man of the masses, and the most famous prophet in Islam. But that was not always so. The prophet Muhammad was not always the famous prophet Muhammad. There was a time when he just started out and he was just a proclaimed prophet, and supposedly he was illiterate at the start. And so what he would do, his divining technique, was he would go to a cave with a couple scribes and he would sit there and rock back and forth and sweat profusely, even when it was cold. And he would gain divine knowledge from the archangel Gabriel. And he did this in that cave and other places over the course of, I think it's 27 years to write the Quran, and until the day he died. And here comes the crux of the argument. You got to remember, before Muhammad, there was no Islam. So the people there were either polytheistic or influenced by Judaism, Christianity, or probably Zoroastrianism. Again, look it up. I've talked about it before. But they knew about Abraham's God and everything, the creator God, who Muhammad was calling Allah. But when he walked back out from the cave, especially when he first started, they would ask him, okay, if you're a prophet, are you talking to the God? And Muhammad said, no, I'm not talking to Allah. And Allah, again, means the one God or the one creator God. And Muhammad said, I do not talk directly to Allah, but I talk to the archangel Jibril, again, Gabriel. And the people looked at Muhammad and said, liar. They called Muhammad a liar right to his face. They said, you are a liar. For if you were really, truly a prophet of the one God, then God would surely not send Jibril to talk to you. God would send Mikael to talk to you, because everybody knows Mikael is the best. Everybody knows that Mikael is the most chosen, most favored son of God. So month after month would go by, year after year, and Muhammad would do the same thing, commanded by God to do so. Go to his cave, get his prophecy, have the scribes write it down, sweat profusely, come out of the cave, and people call him liar. Until one day, they could see that he'd been doing this for years, and he'd never changed his story. He never said, oh, well, I'm talking to Mikael now, or I talked to him both. He never did that. He said, I always get my prophecy from Jibril. And one day they finally kind of came around and said, yeah, you've been doing this for years now and you never changed your story. All right, why don't you show us what Jibril told you to tell us? And then Muhammad started teaching, and that's how Islam started. Which brings me to the conclusion. So, in the most very basic way, Muhammad does not mean laudable or applaudable or standing ovation. That's what the name turned into, because Muhammad turned into the Prophet Muhammad. What Muhammad really, really means is believable. No. What his prophecy is saying that his first name shall be like my name. It shall give him instant believability, instant credibility. It shall be the name that caused me to have to work so hard for my credibility and my believability, which my name is now based on, which is why it went from believable, credible to applaudable, hence the true meaning of Muhammad. Okay, lastly, that's occultation. That's like a Islamic end times prophecy that also has to do with the Mahdi and everything. So you guys can look up the page if you want to. But I also throw that in because occultation means to conceal. But you guys can look this up too. Back in 2021, and I think it happened April 17th, I looked it up a while ago, but there was what was called the occultation of Mars, where the moon blocked Mars from certain points of view of the Earth for like a few minutes and everything. Super, super rare, but that happened exactly 12 days after I became Aries. All right, one last time before we get into consequences of Define Me. But as the Mashiach and the Almighty and your future king, I command both the Palestinians and the Israelis to stop fighting and start negotiating. Use your words. Otherwise, this is what's going to happen. All right, this is a straight out of my Bible, the one my grandma sent me again. I told you the story before. This is Exodus 23:20 through 23:22. And the name of the chapter is God's Angel to Prepare the Way. Here we go. See, I am sending you an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. All right, lastly, what does that mean in layman's terms? Well, it means that if you defy me right now and ignore me right now, then when I do become king, you don't get a seat at the table. Then you cry and moan because you want representation and everything, and I just reference this video and tell you to go fuck yourself because I don't need liars and killers sitting at my table. I never will. So once again, if you defy me now and ignore me now, when I become king, you don't get a seat at the table. You get a seat at the little kid's table over there where you can shut the fuck up. All right, I'm going to sign off right now, and I'm not even going to bother with the 2 rules because you all are in gross violation of them right now, and it's making God angry. Actually, God's more sad than angry right now. I'm the one that's angry. I mean, for a guy that has Nirvana with a remainder, this is as angry as I've been for a very long time. So, well, at least like a year. And yeah. And I'm also frustrated that this happened literally hours after my original sin video. And it's the same Adam, Eve, and Cain mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over. I mean, it's the first book of the Bible. It happened right at the beginning, and we're still the same people. And we wonder why that we don't have our Gaula or redemption or occultation. It's the most self-fulfilling prophecy I've ever seen of people that haven't changed for millennia and always just ask for forgiveness. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.